everyone, Cassidy Hall here. Just had an amazing interview with Keith Andrew over the Keith Andrew Network. I hope you tune in and watch the whole show. Don't want to miss out on the fun.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching the KeithAndrewNetWork. It is season 12, episode number 40. I'm here is the beautiful and talented Ms. Hall. I just want to say thank you for joining us and being a guest on our talk show.
Thank you so much for having me, Keith. I'm so excited just to get into this and to, again, grow our friendship and learn more about each other and be able to share that with everyone.
No, absolutely. And as we're talking, we have special effects on the screen. It's really cool. I don't know who made this, but you know when you watch WWE, they have the spinning titles on the screen?
Mm-hmm.
Now I have that. And out of respect for your father, it's now, obviously, if people didn't know you're related to Scott Hall, it's like, wait, he was never Intercol champion. But this is a special tribute episode to your great father, the bad guy, Razor Ramon, aka Scott Hall. Wonderful person. I met him a while ago. We can talk about that in a bit. And like I said, it's just a normal conversation. So first subject I want to talk to you about is icebreakers. Tell our audience a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So my name is Cassidy Hall, as Keith mentioned. My dad is the late and great Scott Hall, Razor Ramon, professional wrestler. But myself, my career, I work as a registered nurse. I'm recently a first-time mom to a little boy. I live here in Utah now, but I grew up in Orlando, Florida, and went to UCF, so go Knights. I don't know. I love meeting new people. I love kind of the wrestling community and fans that I've kind of been able to reach out to through my dad since he's passed, and sharing different things about him online has been really cool to just kind of carry on his memory.
No, absolutely. If you don't mind, I would like to share two memories that I have. And then this is not about me, obviously, because I don't like to hear myself speak, but I like to hear from you. The first time the first time was, let's see if I can do it without my disability closer on it, was 1994 or 1990. It was after WrestleMania 10. So it had to be late 94, maybe early 95. It was the WWF High Gear Tour. And I remember bits and pieces of it. I remember it was, now you're putting me on the spot, trying to think without hurting myself, if I can do that. Scott Hall had a match. I vaguely remember it was your dad, Scott, and Kevin taking on Jet Jarrett and Shawn Michaels. You may have a better idea of that because he talks to you about this. But
The matches, but I was born in 95, so I
uh,
was pretty young in the heyday of it.
just saying. But I remember it was your dad and Nash and Shawn and Jet Jarrett, or it could have been I know Michaels was involved because they were feuding and leading into WrestleMania 11. Scott was fighting Jarrett leading into 11. Probably I don't remember. It's either before or after Rumble. But I remember that match. I remember the main event like it was yesterday. Bret the Hitman Hart and Bret and the Bulldog, excuse me, taking on Owen and Jerry the King Lawler, just when everyone was calling him Burger King. Sean Waltman was in the first match. He took on Hakushi, or some people call him Tussie. But anyway, it's not that type of show. Just want to make you laugh. It's funny. I heard Adam Bomb, Brian Clark. He's someone I'm in the works of having on the show, actually. It was either watch his match. This is squash match. So it's like only 10 seconds. Was
Mhm.
Adam Bomb or Bob Backlund, or go to the concession stand and get merchandise. 10-second match, merchandise. Merchandise, 10 seconds. I want the merchandise. And the one belt that I wanted was the reason I wanted this because it actually looked like it. Do you still have any of those foam rubber WWF title belts?
I don't have any. I think my dad has some at his house, and then I mean he has some of his actual belts there, and my brother lives there now and has some of those. But I do remember seeing them, and as a kid, we did have some around the house for sure.
Well, this is not about me. I'd like to hear more about you. What was it like having your father? And I do apologize. I didn't mean put the spotlight on me. This is your time. But what was it like having your father in the spotlight?
I mean, it was really cool. I mean, when I was younger and he was more popular kind of in the early 90s and, into the 2000s before he retired, I was still pretty young. So a lot of times when we would go places, I didn't fully understand why everyone really knew who my dad was. I was kind of pretty shy and I'd be kind of scared when people would come up to him because I was just like, how does everyone know who my dad is? It didn't really make sense to me as a little kid that everyone just knew who he was. We would watch him on TV and I had gone to shows before, but when you're little, you still don't really understand like the magnitude of it. Um, but it was cool. It was always nice seeing him interact with fans and having people stop and take pictures. And then as I got older, and of course now I appreciated a lot more just how much he meant to people and how many fans he had all across the world and who really enjoyed watching him wrestle. So it's really cool. I have grown to appreciate it more, I would say. Again, when I was younger and like I would tell people at school, a lot of people who were my age didn't watch him quite as much. It was a little bit of an older crowd who were really into him, but um yeah, I always really enjoyed it. But to me, he was pretty much just a regular dad. He made me do my homework and we just did regular dad stuff.
I can imagine your dad being mad at your teacher and just throwing a toothpick at him.
He did go to career day. I think I was in like third grade, and he came to career day, and his whole get up, and we watched wrestling stuff, and he had a bunch of merchandise and toys that he gave out to kids in my class. So that was pretty cool. My dad definitely had the coolest job for that. There was like a
No.
firefighter, so that was great, and all these really cool careers. But everybody was excited about my dad coming.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, being a firefighter, no, it's wonderful. Yeah, it's if you're being a firefighter to be a hero, you're signing up for the wrong reason. But
Yeah,
it's not an easy job. I salute all the NYPDs and the fire departments because it's really not an easy job.
no, not at all.
So the next one I want to ask you is, what were some of your favorite memories that you have with your father?
Um, Again, a lot of them are just him being a regular, really great dad. When I was younger, I was really into horseback riding, and so he would come to all of my riding lessons. And then when I was younger, he bought me some ponies. So I was nice and spoiled and got some ponies, but he built a barn next to our house. So a lot of my favorite memories are just us. He'd wake me up for school in the morning. We'd go out and feed the horses and just being in the barn together doing that. We shared a lot of special time doing that. Um, and so for me, those are some of my favorite memories was just kind of us and the horses, and he would just stand at the fence and watch me ride. He was actually kind of scared of them, if you can imagine such a big guy being scared of some little ponies that he was way bigger of. But he enjoyed like mucking out the stalls and just kind of that kind of break from the spotlight. He just really enjoyed kind of the little simple chores and tasks and watching me ride and having my friends over so we could all just ride and have fun.
No, he so I'm just giving my point of view. He seemed like a wonderful person. And I sat down. Reason this interview means a lot to me. I'm not kissing your ass or anything. Is because I wanted when I met him and when we're talking, the picture would pop up. And he, also your pictures too, but you sent me. Just why I kind of wish I had the pictures beforehand, but don't worry, I'll make something really nice for you. But I want a lot of wrestlers want to be paid and throw myself underneath the bus, but whatever. There's this wrestler named Eugene. and
Hmm.
he played a mentally ill person. I mean, yeah, it was funny. You can make fun of everything as long as it's not offensive. And you can turn anything into a joke. So I thought he played a disabled person on TV. I don't know if you are you familiar with him or not really.
I no, I don't think so. I don't think I'd ever seen him.
Oh, yeah, I sent you a funny clip after. But pretty much he was I'm gonna get letters on this, but whatever. He was imitating a retarded person,
Hmm.
and he was special ed. But it's okay for me to say it because I fall under the spectrum. Long story about that, not about me. Anyway, so I was like, well, you portrayed this character with special needs. Well, I'm reaching out to you as someone who has special needs. I'm a talk show host with disabilities. Would you want to be on my show? And then he's like, oh, you have to give me a couple $100. I'm like, you know what? That's why I don't ask the wrestlers to be on my show because some of them are really nice and they're like, you tell us you're I didn't tell you my speech, but for you I'm making an exception. What's I had $1 for that? For you, I'm making an exception. The whole point of my talk show is to show people that even with having a learning disability, I can sell them out to something. And at the same time, I'm able to turn myself into an example for people out there dealing with any types of learning disabilities and disabilities to never give up and prove people wrong. Prove to them that labels do not dictate who you are and who you're going to be. To prove them, stem out to something. And that's in the introduction. But for you, I'm going to make an example, just exception. But I wanted Scott to be on my show, but in the back of my mind, it's like he's the type of person that may or may not ask for money. But sitting here having this conversation with you, I'm not saying this to kiss your ass, building a friendship with you, it's giving me closer because I never got the chance to talk to your dad like this. By talking to you, I feel like it's closer for myself, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, yeah, I
And
do.
it really means a lot that you're here with me.
Well, again, thank you for having me. I'm sorry I had to reschedule so many times from when you reached out. Just life gets crazy when you've got a little baby, but I'm so happy that we're doing it now and can get to talk. And again, I know you had met my dad a few times, so it is nice that you kind of get to meet me and hopefully see some similarities between us and things I can carry on from him.
No, absolutely. So the next one I want to ask you some funny questions, and you can throw it back at me. When you were in college, were you a study nerd or a party animal?
I was definitely a study nerd. I really loved school. I've always liked school for some reason. Which is strange because I had a pretty bad speech impediment when I was younger. My brother knocked out my two front teeth. So then when they came back in, I had like the royal gorge. So I would say one, two, flee, and couldn't really pronounce any of the words where you put your tongue against the back of your teeth, which you don't realize is a lot of words. So it was really hard for me learning to read and like the alphabet, which was something my dad helped me with a lot. We would make flashcards and we'd have to read out loud and do all kinds of stuff. But as I got older, I really learned to love reading from spending that time with him. And then in school, was really nerdy. And yeah, I would take extra classes that I didn't even need for my degree. Um, I went to some parties here or there, but I really just liked kind of being home. I'm more of an introvert in that aspect with people I don't really know in those large parties like that. But UCF was a cool school. It kind of is a party school, I think, and it's grown a lot more now. But when I was there, especially in the nursing program, I didn't have a lot of free time.
Well, first off, thank you for your service. It's not easy being a nurse.
Oh no, it's not. It's not. I've worked a lot of different hospitals and kind of travel nursed from moving from Florida. I've went from Florida to Colorado. I was in Colorado for a bit during COVID and then went to Montana and then here in Utah. And it's a hard career. I mean, it is rewarding and I really enjoy helping people, but it's hard. It can be hard to deal with some people and wiping butts and all kinds of stuff. it can be a lot at times, but I do enjoy it. It gives you a lot of freedom just working 3 12s instead of 5 days a week. So there's perks.
No, absolutely. But wiping butts, I guess that's not too sweet.
No, not at
I
all.
know, bad joke. The other question I wanted to ask you is looking at my list. I have actually a list of questions because this is a special interview. How has the coronavirus impacted your life? And do you see things in different point of view? Because you are on the front lines because working in as a nurse, what was that experience like?
Um, I mean, it was really hard, especially in that first kind of waves of things. It was just a lot of uncertainty, a lot of just fear and not really knowing what was happening. I would say my view on things, it has changed a bit. We've definitely learned to value family and connection a lot more, all those things. I mean, just relationships with people, that stuff that was kind of stripped away from us when we were in isolation. So just um, hugging people when you can, doing telling people you love them because there were a lot of people who lost loved ones. Just not being able to visit people or again working in the hospital and lots of people were there alone and their families couldn't be there. So having to kind of be that connection for them while also trying, having a lot of fear about keeping yourself safe and not wanting to spread anything to your people at home when you got there. So it definitely made me appreciate it. And during that time, I couldn't really visit my dad or see him, and he was pretty fearful of getting sick. So it was hard. And that's where I'm very thankful for FaceTime and things like that, where we could reach out to people. But it definitely makes you value just that human connection and being close to people. And again, just being able to hug people and love on them.
Next one I want to ask you, and I completely agree with you. If you don't mind me for asking, how come you never wanted to be a professional wrestler and follow in your father's footsteps?
Um, I don't know. Again, it was not really anything we really like talked about for for me and my dad. I mean, my brother kind of took that route with him, which was really cool. Um, but yeah, it wasn't really anything we talked about. I'm sure if I had more interest, he definitely would have helped me out with it. But I, yeah, I just was kind of like it was his job. I didn't really see myself in it. Again, I'm fairly shy. I don't know if I could be out there on stage being kind of like a diva. I'm sure I could, I'd have to make a character and could do it, but yeah, it wasn't really for me when we were at his shows or again when lots of people would come up to him. I was like, I don't know if I could do this where people just, recognize you everywhere and want your autograph and kind of being in that fame wasn't really for me, but yeah, there has been times where I've considered it where I was like maybe if I get like really in shape and then I'll call up Paul and see if I can audition at the school and it would be cool, but it's also so hard on your body. And now that I have a son and kind of recognizing how hard it was for my dad to be away from us when we were young, it's just stuff I don't want to miss out on.
No, absolutely. I mean, you can be a part-timer.
Yeah, yeah, just kind of pop in. Yeah, I don't, even if I did do it, I don't think I'd want to be like a huge star. I'd probably just, do some of the fill-in matches and get out of the building early.
It's funny. A couple of years ago, I live in upstate New York. So, have you ever been to upstate New York?
No, I've never been to New York at all.
And there's some nice places and some crappy places. So, I mean, like everywhere.
Yeah.
So, upstate near New Paltz, there's an Ulster County Fair. Very nice. Unfortunately, with the economy, they're cutting back. They're making little things here and there. I really hope he doesn't become freaking president. But we don't have a choice on that. But we can talk about that after. Um, no, but it's so I was standing there with my dad, and this is about my fourth year, my fifth year when I was doing my talk show. And I was like, it would be nice if people walked up to me and asked, hey, can I get your autograph? Or, hey, you're the talk show host with a disability. I think you're doing really terrific. And my dad said, you're going to regret saying that because one day you're not going to have privacy. I can imagine what your dad had to go through. People sitting at the freaking airport 5 in the morning. And I interviewed this limo driver. I won't say his name, but he's one of many limo drivers. We can
Mhm.
talk off the air. And he's like, oh, yeah, people sit in the airport 5 in the morning. They find their hotels. I went, holy shit. Have some self-respect for yourself. Okay, there's a fine line of being a fan and being respectful and being a complete other douchebag. And
Yeah.
it's kind of, if you told me, oh, hey, Trish Stratus is at blah, 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 hotel, okay, great. Why does that matter to me? I don't care. I don't give a shit. And it's kind of like, that's where the problems begin with the fans. So let me ask you this one. Do you think fans can take advantage of opportunities and ruin things for everyone else?
I mean, I think it can happen for sure. There's always people that can take things a little too far. I mean, there has been yeah, there's times where me and my dad would just be like out to dinner and people recognize him and they want to come up and ask for photos and pictures and lots of people would wait till we were getting up and leaving, but other people just come up, we're mid-meal and are
Yeah.
wanting to shake his hand and expecting him to get out and take pictures and he always was pretty nice about it. Again, sometimes just tell people, when we're leaving after my meal because it would just be hard again. We're trying to spend just quality normal time together. And I do remember when WrestleMania was in Orlando a couple of years back. And I went with my dad. The hotel that he was staying at because he would have me and my friends come out so we could go to the pool and do stuff during the day before the events and just be able to hang out there. There was so many fans and people who were attending WrestleMania who knew that's where they were putting everyone up, all of the stars. So yeah, you couldn't really go anywhere without being mobbed. And we were trying to eat by the pool at one of the little bars there where you could order food. And my dad got up to go to the bathroom, and people just swarmed over to me, and they didn't know who I was. They didn't know I was his daughter, but they were like, "Oh my gosh, did you win like a fan experience to like go on a date with him? Like, this is so cool!" Like, yada yada yada. They just thought I was like his girlfriend. I was like, no, that's my dad. We're just hanging out. But they were like, really had thought I had won some exclusive fan experience. But yeah,
Now,
there was people just camped out in the lobby, just waiting for anyone to walk by that they could try to grab for pictures and this or that, which I mean, it's a really big event and you kind of have to expect some of that to happen. And some of the people, again, didn't have tickets to go. So they're just hoping they can see anyone they can see on the way. But it's hard because that's kind of their place to go and relax in between all the chaos and it can be hard. And I know there was times my dad would get pretty frustrated because again, we'd be out somewhere and people would make me take the picture of them and I was just like the photographer for everyone and we're just, trying to go get dinner.
no, I completely agree. And let me ask you, do you have like any fears? Because let me give you an example. I keep saying I want to become fan, and I mean this, and I'm a hand to God. I want to do this until the day I die. That's how passionate I am. Been doing this for 11 years. Now I can say officially 11 and a half years because my anniversary was this past Monday. Um, and as we're talking, that will appear on the screen.
Mhm.
But I don't really, okay, I have a fear of drowning. That's my biggest fear. But my mom's biggest fear for me is, you keep saying you want to be on TV, but there's a lot of crazy people out there. And remember it's John Glenn,
Mhm.
um, not John Glenn, the astronaut, John Lennon. I'm sorry, I don't know why I thought of John Glenn. John Lennon, he's like, hey, can I get your autograph? And an asshole fan and was shooting him. In the back of your mind, were you ever worried? Because you are famous in a way, but were you ever fearful? And not to sound like an asshole, I do apologize. But do you mind if I ask?
No, that's okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Was there ever a time where you felt fearful for yourself and your dad? Because yes, it's nice to have people come up and be respectful, not like act like a bunch of animals, but just be respectful. But in the back of your mind, were you kind of like, where's security?
There were definitely some times where it would just be yeah like at some of the events so many people grabbing at him and stuff like that where it would be kind of scary to a point where you're just like how are we going to stop this or is he going to have to like fight everyone to for us to get out of here but a lot of the times I did feel I felt pretty okay. A lot of the times it was easy to distinguish people were just like really excited fans to like be seeing him out somewhere. Um, Occasionally there would be people where it just was more of like a creepy stalker
Yeah.
X vibe where they wouldn't really even like say anything, but they'd just be like walking by, taking pictures and stuff like that to where you're like, What the heck?" But
Well, you
I
can curse
usually
if you
felt
want
pretty
to.
safe. I usually felt pretty safe with my dad because he was usually the biggest guy there, so I wasn't too worried.
Actually, I want to get you fired up. What are some of your pet peeves that you can't stand, and what are some of your red flags that gets you fired up?
Um, hmm. Well, pet peeves. Let's see. I mean, just in general, I'm like a very neat and tidy person. So one of my big pet peeves that my boyfriend does all the time is he like opens drawers and cabinets and just leaves them open all over the place. So you're just like, what? It took one extra step just to close it. Why is it open? That really bugs me. I don't know. Um, let's see. Bad pet peeves.
Or do you have any funny stories you would you like to share?
Hmm. I don't just like in general or mostly pertaining to my dad, or what do you
Oh,
think?
anything.
Hmm.
Here's one for you. The Undertaker told this funny story. You know how people hang out at the airports, right? So, can I get your autograph? So this
Mm-hmm.
guy, complete stranger, told this little kid, "Hey, that's the Undertaker. Can you go get his autograph?" The Undertaker knew something was up because he already asked, and he's like, "Hey, can you sign this? Can you sign this?" So the guy gave the kid one of the things he had. He said, "Go ask him if he can order it, yeah, to sign it." And Mark looks at it and he figures out it's for the guy. So he writes on it, and it's uncensored. "Fuck you," and folds it like this. He folds it, says, "Now don't look at it. This is only for his eyes only." And so the little kid goes back. The guy, I was his father or whatever the story
Mm-hmm.
is, and he opened it and it said "fuck you" on it, and he got so pissed. It's like, hey, don't take advantage of people.
Yeah, yeah. Let's see. Yeah, that is I'm sure my dad probably had done some things like that before because there was times where yeah, people are just crazy and persistent, but um I don't know. Funny
What
stories. Hmm.
anytime you're at an event and you just yell something out and you're like, yeah, I was like I would take that back.
I don't know. I don't think so. I honestly didn't go to like so many events with him. I mean, there's lots of times when we were little again and we would just be backstage and I really didn't pay attention to what was going on. We were just kind of used to being there. But I'm trying to think growing up and just kind of older in life, things he would. I mean, there were lots of times where, yeah, we'd walk by someone or it would be a fan who had come up and then he'd go, "Oh, you got a string hanging off your shirt," and he'd grab their arm, making fun of their arm being skinnier than just being a small guy. So he would say that would usually get a big laugh out of people because they'd be like, "Oh," and then he's like, "Oh, it's just your arm," thinking it was a little string hanging off, and he would do the toothpick throw for people a lot of times too. So that was always a big hit when they'd see him or they would lots of people would bring toothpicks for him and want them to throw the toothpick right back at him. So that was always fun. He really enjoyed, making people laugh like that. But I think, yeah, I don't know. That's kind of what comes to mind when I think about that. Just signing the photo and you leave. But was there
I
anything
met
that
people
stuck out
like
to
that
you?
too.
Yeah.
Wrapping up our talk show is a real honor and privilege. Having you as a guest, I'm looking forward to part two. Make sure if you liking this video, our goal is to reach 500 to 1,000 views. Make sure to leave a comment, not just for me, but our great guests, because when you're supporting the Keith Andrew Network, it's just too sweet. Sorry, just had to throw it in there. But with that being said, our goal is to reach 500 or more views. We're definitely going to do a part two down the road. We're wrapping up. It was a real honor and privilege having you as a guest. And for our fans out there, thank you for supporting the Keith Andrew Network. And you're going to get more great episodes on the Keith Andrew Network. Until we meet again, I catch you later. Thank you, and have a good night.
You're on my show and supporting me. And my message is all that